AI is fast approaching. It seems as though every day there's new developments from NVIDIA's new chips all the way to Deepseek AI, which is currently crushing the market. The following is a 30-minute video, which we recorded for members only, a conversation between Roy, Tanner, and myself on AI and how that's going to change life around us. It's a broader macroeconomic view where we're not really talking about specific stocks, but we're talking about concepts and themes that we're going to see. Now, like I said, this is a members only video, but we wanted to provide a snippet of this conversation for free to all of our viewers, just so you can get a taste of what it's like to become a member for one of our channels. Now, before I go into the video, you might be asking, how can I become a member? And I want to show you a very quick step by step. So the first thing that you do is you go into one of our channels through any of these videos, even this video that you're watching right now. And on the bottom left here, you're going to see the title of this video along with the channel. So in this case, it's myself. And you're going to see two buttons, one that says join, one that says subscribe. Now, I hope for you, this says that it's already subscribed, but if it's not, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And you can also turn on that notification bell. However, to be able to see members only videos, of which we post at the very least one member video per week, you will click that join button. And when you click that join button, you're going to see this pop up show up. In my case, I only have two membership tiers as of this moment. The first tier is just supporting the channel. It's $1.99 a month, and you get some loyalty badges, you get custom emojis, and you get a whole bunch of other benefits in the chat with regards to shoutouts. Now, the second one is what unlocks the videos. It's called the members only videos perk. It's $4.99 a month. You get all of the benefits of the previous tier, as well as videos once a week on these topics. And not only do you get the members only live streams and videos, you also get members only live chats and premium membership to the SoFi Discord. So make sure you join that, and then you can get a taste of more videos similar to this one. Without further ado, here's the video on our discussion around AI and how that's going to change the world around us.
What if Meta, Amazon, every single one of these large tech companies potentially are investing a ton of capital to get the best models possible and the ton of training for these models, and then potentially, like what just happened like today with DeepSeek, that models of much smaller size can actually be really good and that they don't need that large investment in massive facilities with tens of thousands, millions of GPUs. Do you think that potentially that might be the bear case of like, oh, wait, we've actually way over invested. We didn't fully understand the technology and that we found a better way of doing this that doesn't require as much compute?
I'm getting more and more bullish on AI with the more that I read about it and the more educated that I get. Because my stance initially on AI was that there would be a huge variance between the hype cycle and the actual efficiency unlock. As a result of that gap, there would be a huge wave of companies being overvalued with AI. But what we're seeing is AI is different in that it is unlocking value even on a smaller scale quicker. The use cases for I think, are largely untapped right now. Like we just saw OpenAI's agents, and having AI actually be doing tasks for you as opposed to just using it as a search engine. I think you're going to see more and more of those. And so, yeah, you could have DeepSeek and smaller projects service one size of that market, but the way that I see DeepSeek is the way that I see BYD for EVs. Like it is not the best alternative out there, and it is going to be used for some applications. I don't discount that, but it's not going to be like a model that leads all of these companies to essentially lower their spend, because I think that the market potential is there for the taking, and it's large enough to justify the spend across the board when you consider the full range of applications that can be leveraged through AI, whether it's Gen AI, whether it's agents, whether it's whatever you want in between. So I think the spend is largely justified. I think we are still in highly in exploration mode. I think the use cases are still developing every single week that we have in this industry. And I don't see any big problem there. I mean, the only bear case that I can probably think of is if NVIDIA, which is seen as a leader in the market with regards to processing power, is seeing that the orders that they have are largely capped, or if Meta and Tesla and the likes of these large companies move to other providers like AMD and such, then yeah, I could see individual players falling in this time. But as a space in general, I think we're still in the early innings.
let's say, and I don't believe this, but let's say that the Bears are right, that CapEx spending is a lot less expensive all of a sudden, just because the costs are a lot less to train these models. That's not good for NVIDIA, though they are more than just, selling chips. Uh, it definitely will hurt them. But, you could think of this in the same way as like oil just getting really cheap. It's not quite that extent, but it's like, oh man, that'll really hurt Exxon. And so then maybe you have to worry about the market. It's like, well, no, because all of a sudden you have all these other companies that really benefit from being able to offer the same transportation from all these different products at a much cheaper rate, and some of that gets passed on, through a lot of other different investments and spendings.
Does that get distributed in the market in at the same rate? Like Nvidia comes down and the other players go up in equal step, or is there a massive market correction while people try to find out where the money's being distributed?
I don't think there'd be a correction just for that. Like Nvidia's not like Apple was, 10 years ago or what. I don't know. I know there's a couple other players, but Nvidia is a significant part of the market. But I don't think that it'll tear everything down, especially because
I
those
think
that
you're
are they're
downplaying. I think
cheap.
they're still they are the king on the chessboard. I still
Sure,
believe that.
absolutely.
Yes,
From a
but
perception perspective, like I agree with Roy on this, right? Like, sure, Nvidia can be the canary in the coal mine that the market looks to judge the strength or the health of the AI segment in general. But if you're using the same analogy, like oil, for example, you're going to have companies that specialize in that distribution network, specialize in the storage, specialize in the refinement, specialize in everything else, all the way to the gas pumps. Again, using that same analogy framework, a lot of those companies don't exist yet. Like there are a lot of them are still in very much startup mode. A lot of them are still concepts that are being developed. And I just think that that overall is the piece that I'm bullish on, because what we're seeing right now is we're seeing the scaffolding being built. We're not seeing all of these other steps or all of these other companies, because a large part we're very early in the cycle and we just don't have all the use cases yet. Like in a year or two, like OpenAI releasing this agents is something really cool, and it's $200 a month, and I even thought about, like, giving it a test drive myself, like, buying it for a month and seeing what I could use it for and trying to explore. I think in maybe 6 months to 12 months, at the very, very, very most bearish, in 18 months, you're gonna have, and I think Zuckerberg told this on Joe Rogan, like, you're gonna have AI who is coding at a mid-level engineer type of proficiency. That then compounds on top of itself, and I think that's the thing working in tech that makes me more bullish, that I wasn't before, is like you're going to have this machine that builds a machine on a software level.
and their biggest customers, mostly in the Mag 7. So if all of a sudden all the other six of the Mag 7 need to spend a whole lot less on that, they'll spend in other ways too. So, but that'll be very bullish for them. That like their EPS will look a lot better. So,
I don't know that they will spend. I think capex as a percentage of revenue even has been climbing. I think like if you look at before 2020, they were kind of just cash stockpiling. Now see something to heavily invest in, and now they're doing that. But
oh yeah.
doesn't mean that they're always look for something to spend on. Do you think that Stargate projects really? You think they actually have funding, or do you think it's just a baloney press piece and the money was already going there? I'll give you my thoughts. I think it's freaking weird that they came out and said there's $500 billion. One, that it's even part of Trump's campaign or anything along these lines. It has nothing to do with them at all.
No.
It's private capex. Microsoft was spending $80 billion, and then they said, "Hey, why don't we just tack this into a project that is funded by Trump?" No, it's not. It's they're doing 80 billion of capex. Why didn't you say 565 billion? Call Meta. You get it up to a trillion if you call enough companies. It makes no sense to me. I think the only person that's actually adding money is Masayoshi Son, the original 100 billion. So that still is exciting. The only thing that I think is really exciting about this is the fact that hopefully Trump stays the heck out of their way. That government stays out of their way. Hopefully permits for things like land and stuff like this just get expedited for them to set up massive data centers. Last sort of thing, I'm going to give you guys my thoughts, and then I need you as history buffs to tell me how you think that this feels for you. I want a year that you guys can put this to. I keep comparing what's going on with the AI revolution as sort of the Manhattan Project. There is an end game, and whoever can get to the end goal potentially ends up winning by a great feat. However, I actually don't think it's US versus China anymore. I actually think it's Elon Musk versus Sam Altman. I think that these two American giants are at a full race to see who is going to have AGI or ASI or whatever you want to call it and fully own that space. Is there a year or technological advancement that you guys can think about that has been this much of just a straight arms race?
It's not closer to the Manhattan Project. I would probably put it closer to the Industrial Revolution in terms of what it allows from sheer efficiency unlocks and productivity gains alone. Because the Industrial Revolution had the same potential from a hardware perspective that this will have in terms of efficiency unlocks from a software perspective.
Who were the big players during that? During
Uh,
like, were there historical names that you could point to say these people were in sort of an arms race to?
It's not necessarily that. It's just that it changed, and this is, I think, the interesting thing when you're talking about like macro demographic trends. It changed the breakdown of people's time significantly because prior to that, like 90% plus of the world was farmers, and then post that, you just had a wide array.
Yeah, but there wasn't any significant unlock, was it? It was like there were a lot of things that were made during that time that unlocked those productivity gains, but it wasn't like the reason why I say the Manhattan Project is because I feel like it's a lot of science until there's a bomb. And I feel like that's sort of what's happening here, where it's like, okay, we're building, 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 and eventually there's going to be one AGI that is going to bring us into a potential singularity. And like this is, as Joe Rogan sort of puts it, like the human caterpillar that's cocooning into a butterfly right now.
Well, I mean, look, if you do keep with the, and I'd love to hear from Roy because he's a history buff, but if you do keep with the analogy of the Industrial Revolution, I guess the major unlock was the steam engine because then you could traverse wide distances and really the if you're wanting to pin it down to major competitors, it was a lot around like railroads and transportation systems because at that same time, like if you could control the transportation routes then you could control the actual deliveries back and forth. There was significant innovations, particularly in transportation, steamships, railroads, canals. That was a major unlock in that period as well. You could probably draw a parallel here as well because I do think that what NVIDIA is doing with the picks and shovels in terms of pure processing power, and I do think that the foundational frameworks that are being built right now, similar to what I was saying at the beginning of this episode, they will serve as the base layer, and then what gets built on top of those is going to be, we maybe not have not seen them yet, or they are the startups that will pop up this year, next year, in 2027, so on and so forth.
Yeah, yeah. And what I think is a little bit different is I found a lot of these brick and mortar businesses had a very hard time going from brick and mortar to internet. But a lot of these internet businesses are having a pretty good understanding of transitioning to AI. I don't think many of them are fighting it the way they fought the internet. I don't think anyone thinks this is a fad.
Yeah, this is. I agree with Tevis as far as like seeing it similar to the Revolution. It was kind of a slow build up. The rate of change is a lot more rapid, and I think the steam engine is really the internet. Like that, the engine has been built, but some of those that made the biggest splash, at least here in the United States, the Vanderbilts, the Rockefellers, they were in one of two industries. They were in the energy sector, specifically, really oil, because we went from needing, oil for a few little things here and there to like all the oil we could freaking get and more.
That was Standard
Because
Oil, right?
Standard Oil is one of the big ones. Yeah, there was multiple, and actually some of the way that they competed was just downright nasty and brutal. And I see some of that with Elon Musk and Sam Altman. They don't like each other. Like I question how much Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk don't like but I think some of that's probably just for show or just out of pride. And then the other side of that, beyond energy, was of course building the roadways and the rails. So of course you had the major railways, you had canals as well, but just expanding the system of navigation, taking advantage of these new engines, the steam engine and the combustion engine as well on top of that, and eventually led, of course, to air travel as well. So I see that buildup happening. The hyperscalers are really the ones that are building those pathways and roadways. I think the infrastructure, but there's a lot of other people building too and iterating, and it's going to come very very fast over the next 5 years. I agree with you, Tanner, that there's not a lot of people fighting against it. There are some, the Teamsters, the longshoremen, like those unionized folks, where they see that it'll impact their jobs, and sadly, maybe it was necessary, maybe it wasn't, but Trump, basically allowed a win, at least on the other side of that. And I don't like seeing people lose their jobs, but basically saying, oh, we need to regulate away from AI. I don't think that'll be a trend under the Trump administration. I would be shocked. I think I'd see more of it under a Democrat regime. But no, if the next 4 years are like what I think that it is, I think that we have all the time that's needed really to establish precedent, to build out some of those roadways and bridges, so to speak, and to really develop from the steam engine to the combustion engine.
Just to build on that, I'm like, the piece that I'm really excited about is the creation of new industries that is going to come from this. Not only from like a vertical perspective, like cloud, how cloud came from the internet, but like also from an individual perspective, right? Because when the internet came, all of a sudden you had influencers and content creators become a job or a profession that
Mhm.
people pursued, right? Like, and so I do think
You're
similar
going to get
to,
Roy very upset here, by the way, thinking that humans have jobs. Go ahead.
well, I mean, sure, what we can get into like very esoteric conversations, but like I do think similar to in the Industrial Revolution, it spawned industries like railroads, steel, textile, like coal mining industries, a whole bunch, similar to how the internet spawned new industries like content creators, social media influencers, so on and so forth. In general, like the gig economy, which was powered by the internet, because all of a sudden you could be a solopreneur and do everything that a small business can. Similarly, I do think AI will unlock even more efficiency through automation to power even new industries like the one person unicorn. I could even see that happening, right? Through AI.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's going to be these one person multi-billion dollar companies, which is going to be crazy.
I could see it.
It was kind of it's and that's interesting, so industrial revolution, like they had cottage industries where people literally would develop a new business like within their homes. This is happening in the 1800s, and I remember reading that, like, I'm older than you guys, but like in the 80s and 90s, like I was thinking, oh man, how cool would that have been to like live in that time where you could just build your business right outside your house. Too bad that's not the reality anymore. Well, it sure is, and it has been, since the internet. But that's even, I think, greatly accelerated with AI and what that offers. So it can equalize things. I also think, that when we're seeing some of this too, where at least in the industrial revolution, you saw initially the gap between the rich and the poor, like that got wider for the first little bit of time, and over time, and there's a lot of factors and too much to really get in, but eventually, like that gap lessened, and the fruits of the industrial revolution were felt by basically everybody worldwide. But it didn't come all at once, and it didn't come equally at once. And I think that we'll see that with AI. You'll see some consternation, from people that are like, "Oh man, Elon Musk is now worth this and that." Well, the other thing that I think will be interesting to kind of keep an eye on is during that kind of golden age of the Industrial Revolution, you had a time, and it wasn't in every country, but you had a time where large companies almost rose to the prominence of small countries. And I think we're basically there right now with Apple, with Meta, with Google, with Tesla certainly as well. And that didn't get as long to play out as I would have thought. A lot of that is just because of world wars. But yeah, I'm kind of curious if that had longer to play out and there wasn't that whole shift in focus, and of course, national pride, nationalism, and the wars that happened, what that would have looked like if it wasn't interrupted. We might see it. I don't know if that's exciting or concerning, maybe a
I,
little bit both.
I was going to say, like, if history repeats itself, how much longer of peacetime do we have before everything? Like,
So like that's one of the crazy things. So the Industrial Revolution brought a whole lot less need, and the initial thought from classical liberals, not comparable to modern liberals, was that the end of want, the end of need, would be as a result of this, and because of that, that there would be fewer or no wars. That it'd just be fatherhood of God and brotherhood of man, and everybody just sings kumbaya, with each other. And the reality is, it shifted the need, or the perceived need. So some of those wars were fought for things that wouldn't have been considered previously, and certainly we had more modern wars after World War II that you can argue were fought because of oil. I'm not going to name any or anything, but that there it is. And that would not have been conceived of 100 years prior at all. Like, they'd be like, "Why do you need that much oil?" Like, the problem is, I think that in that time, people thought that if everybody had what they need, then that would be fine. There wouldn't be any like greed or lust or war or anything. But that's really a misunderstanding of the human condition, frankly. That's one of the problems with communism or socialism. If humans were not human, then maybe that would work, but we are. So capitalism, give me that.
I want to also bring up another interesting topic that sort of links in with our analogy that we can extrapolate for the age of AI. Because, I mean, Roy touched on the conflict aspect and he touched on the inequality from a wealth perspective. But I think the education point is really interesting as well to think about. Because, Tanner, education systems today are as a result of the Industrial Revolution, right? Because, like, prior to the Industrial Revolution, only the wealthy families who had like private tutors, and education focused mostly on like philosophy and Latin and these types of things. But with the rise of factories, there was a significant need for people who were literate, for people who could focus on reading and writing and repetitive tasks specifically. And
I did
Rockefeller,
hear that actually. That I think it was the Rockefellers were a big part of the
so
actual
yeah,
education system.
Rockefeller and Carnegie were like two. They had foundations at this point. They were
Mhm.
big into philanthropy, and so they were focusing a lot on the education system. The model on which the education system, even today, 100 plus years later, still follows the same structure where it's standardized schedules, you have a grading system, you focus on punctuality, you focus on rote like memorization, on repetitive tasks. Like, that is the playbook to create a good factory worker. But the education system has not caught up, and it will massively need to catch up if you're having broad general adoption in AI. Because, like, for any kids that I have, I would rather teach them personal finance, entrepreneurship, like these types of things, rather than what is taught in today's education systems. And I think that a lot of people, as a result of that education system, are going to undergo real hardship in displacement of their career halfway through their career as a result of AI, because of what they were taught. And I think the generation that's probably the best prepared is Gen Z, because they're already heavy on the entrepreneurship. They already are not great employees because they focus too much on their mental health, and they focus too much on like questioning everything. And I see this all the time, like hired Gen Zs. I've worked with Gen Zs, and just how their brain works as a result of being exposed to technology from a very, very young age, which, I mean, I wasn't. I got my first phone. It was like a flip phone. I got it when I was a teenager. It's going to be a very different world. And I think that is going to be exacerbated if you jump into AI, because the landscape is going to completely shift.
I like your point about bringing up that there's going to be brand new jobs that people don't even think about. I wish you were helping me defend against the onslaught of Roy and Amit that were telling me that no jobs were going to, not no jobs, but that there was going to be mass layoffs. But I think people will be creative. I think manicurists, pedicurists, we're going to work ourselves all the way down to the fingernails if it has to be. I think we're going to get real creative and real luxurious.
So, not to rehash that, but like the point was that new jobs don't just pop up at the same rate as old jobs slough off. And even if they do, you're not going to train a truck driver how to do manicures.
I
Not
mean,
many.
I think you're giving no credit to the truck drivers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm friends with a number of truck drivers. They've told me just basically such. I'll need to check in with them. It's been a year or two, but like
Yeah, but
they've seen
they can say whatever the
they've
fuck they want. If no money is coming in, they got to do something.
so a lot of those guys made bank and will retire, if they're like 45 or 50 or whatever, which creates a whole host of other problems. But like financially, they're able to. And then the other side of that is younger people that are, just started out, they'll have no problem. But those that are kind of in the middle, like let's say that they're 35, 40, they've been driving trucks for 15, 20 years. That's all they know. Their mind is no longer as elastic as it was when they're younger. They can learn to do some stuff, but a lot of that menial things that doesn't take like any kind of specialized skill, those jobs are going away. A lot of them are. What's
Were they
that?
all going to go to the military? Like, I mean, they got to do something. Like, like,
There needs to be a transitional period of reskilling, right? Like there needs to be something. Historically, a lot of those jobs that required repetitive physical tasks, after automation was introduced, they just moved into oversight or maintenance or repair or, just collaboration and programming in general, as opposed to them actually being the ones doing the job, like from an operator role to like an agent type of role. And so I think that there can be parallels. Of course, there's a higher learning curve there, but there's going to need to be a period of reskilling. And yeah, of course, a lot of people are going to get lost in that process.
I know that there's some smart truck drivers. Like I've been friends with a couple of them that are, smarter than I am probably. But let's take somebody that has a 90 IQ that's been driving trucks for 20 years. How likely do you think it's going to be that that person gets retrained how to do programming of like the fleet? Like they're not. Like that's not happening. Like, with
no,
a
no,
few
no. I don't think
exceptions,
he
there will be
means.
exceptions.
I don't think he means programming like do code.
Well,
No,
no,
I'm
you can do natural English programming with Palantir products, and there's other products as well. I don't think that's the issue, but that takes a certain logical way of thinking that unless you're in the habit of doing that, or you're young and adaptable, or you're just very brilliant, that's going to be a tough, tough ask, especially because we have computers and AI that can do that conceivably.
if I'm the truck driver, I think there's opportunities in like fleet management type of thing. If there are autonomous roles, I think remote operators, like I know right now for Tesla, if there are situations where there's unforeseen events that you need remote operators to go over and review the footage and actually do labeling, that type of stuff. And then you're going to focus on non-automatable jobs, right? You're going to focus on the customer service. You're going to focus on, I don't know, emergency response if there's a crash or something like that. You're going to say, well, Tevis, there's not enough jobs to replace all of them. And that's obviously true. A lot of them are going to have to go into adjacent sectors, and there's probably going to be new sectors that are going to be created. So let's say we have 100 truck drivers. From what I mentioned, in the same sector, maybe you're going to save 15 to 20 of them. Maybe 80 are going to go into another sector. And like, that's just the reality of what it is.
The original question was, I think it was 2030 or 2035. I forget what the timeline. 10 years from now, will Amazon have more or less employees? That was the original question. I said they'll have more, and Amit and Roy said they'll have less.
How many do
As
they
long
have
as we
right now?
define employees as human. Yes. I think
Full-time employees, yeah.
I think they'll have less.
You think so?
Yeah.
You
Much
know,
less.
they went from 0 to 800,000 robots while their head
Yeah.
count went up.
Yes. Yeah, but I also know that they hire way more robots on any given year than they hire humans.
Yeah, but the head count still grew. Do you not think that their growth will just be faster because of robots? Rather, like I think everyone looks at robots and they think, "Oh, this is going to replace humans." And I think about it and I think, "Okay, well their growth is going to go from 20% a year to 45% a year."
Okay, let's break out Amazon's current employees into what they do. Would it be fair to say that 80% of them work in some type of packing plant, redistribution center, factory type setting?
Yeah, I'd say so. I don't even think there's even a lot of drivers at Amazon. I think they're all
anymore.
contract workers for third-party companies.
Right. And so if you have now, let's say by 2035, you're going to have the Optimus bot powered by Grok or powered
I
by,
actually do not think they're going to use many of those at all.
well, they have their own robots. They don't need to use that specific one. But my point is they're going to use robotics in warehouse operations. And
Yeah,
that's going to lead
specialized robotics.
okay, so now let's say that there's a 50% reduction in force over the next 15 years of just the people that work in the factories. And if we say that that's like 80% of people, then you're going to see like almost half of their current headcount. Now you got to ask yourself, okay, well, if robots replace that, where else can Amazon add more employees that are humans in other areas that they expand. You got to also keep in mind, Tanner, that humans are fickle. Humans want a pay raise. Humans want vacation days. Humans want to work 8 hours. Humans want health benefits. Humans want all this shit that the robot just doesn't want, man.
And we
But
take breaks.
what if the government then has a real UBI problem and starts saying, "Hey, you're using all these robots. You have to pay a tax per head."
Okay.
So then maybe it's so high that the human robot cost actually gets pretty decently similar. Maybe
It'll
a
it'll never
sorry.
be that high because again, I'm just spitballing, but like even if the government, which is crazy, and I like Amazon's going to lobby their ass off along with everybody else who has leverage to
Yeah,
not
but
make
every
that happen.
human will lobby that they will need to.
Nobody cares, bro. Like I'm sorry to say
It's
it, but like
where they're going to get their money.
literally nobody cares about the blue collar vote lobbying unless Amazon, I don't think has a union, right? Like
Well,
nobody
it's
cares.
not blue collar. I wouldn't say it's blue collar. I'd say it's like I think we're getting attacked at both fronts. I think AI is white collar and robotics is blue collar. All jobs, let's say, are going to get replaced. Where are you going to tax
My point is, look, if
tokens?
if a robot, how much less do you think a robot costs than a human in terms of productivity per
Infinitely,
hour or cost per hour? However you want to slice it.
almost infinite. I'd say like 1/1000th.
Okay, 1/1000. So what is the tax? Like if they tax them 90% more for a robot, then they can still crank out more efficiency or more profit with robots versus humans. First. Second, I think if they tax them a high amount, then Amazon's first response or any company's first response is how can I make these robots more efficient as opposed to how can I go back to the old way of doing things and hire humans?
No, I don't think. But it'll one. These robots are not going to be just spit out. There's a human workforce that is in the billions right now. It'll take robots a while to get to the billions. They had
Yes.
1.2 million essentially at COVID. It, and almost zero robots. The robots went from 0 to 800,000, and their headcount went from 1.2 to 1.5. Actually, 1.6, and then it's down right
Well,
now in
like
this quarter, but it's expected to go up in Q4.
so they added 300,000 humans and they added 800,000 bots.
Yes, they added humans.
Okay, okay, great. I want you to answer two things. Number one, if they added 0 bots, how many humans do you think they would have added? Because I guarantee you that
More,
there's not
more.
800,000. I know, but it's not gonna be equivalent. It's gonna be like a bot does the work of 3 humans, right? So they would have added maybe 500,000 humans instead of 300,000, but it's not gonna be 1.1 million humans. Hold on, that's the first question. The second question is, if you extrapolate that out and every year you add 800,000 bots, I guarantee you're gonna reach a plateau by like year 2 where you're going to have a 50-50 split of bots to humans, and then bots are going to be cannibalizing humans in terms of because they're more efficient, because they have fewer demands, and because they have fewer costs, they're going to be doing more of the work.
But then this is where Amazon Healthcare comes in. This is where Prime TV comes. Like they'll just grow as a business.
Sure, but the losses that they're going to have in their main workforce, which is in factories, is going to be way more than whatever they end up adding in any other vertical.
But there's also political pressure.
But do you understand that customer service is also going to be AI?
No, I know, but I'm just saying there's I almost would render it impossible that if Amazon could replace all their workforce, like what Klarna's been talking about, if a company of their size were to do that, there would just there would be sweeping rule sets that would stop them from doing that the next week.
How long can they hold those floodgates?
No, I think that it has to happen over a long period of time. But
So,
during
like,
those times, new industries get created.
here's what Amazon does. Okay, you can't replace your workers with bots. Great. We're going to go on a permanent hiring freeze, never hire a single human again. And by the way, people are going to quit, people are going to retire, people are going to get laid off because of whatever reason. They're going to get terminated. And over time, you're going to have like a 90-10 split between bots and humans. Like they're going to get around it, man. Like what
No,
Amazon gets taxed 50%. Guess what? We're now an Ireland company that has our IP out in Bermuda. Sorry. Like if there's
Yeah,
a will,
that's
there's
the
a
thing.
way.
That's exactly right. Is if pressure is bad enough, like holding back the floodgates, so to speak, we'll see more offshoring. Because it'd be like, oh,
it
so
might not
United
be
States is going
legal.
to do this. So hey, Mexico, by the way, you're allowing robotics here's a nice bribe for your government, or some kickbacks for your people. We're going to do everything in your place, and we'll just transport it to the United States.
Yeah, but that might not be legal. Like this is what I think will change in politics is like they right now those aren't the problems addressing the United States, so it's not a big concern. But imagine Trump stepping into or the Trump of that time, let's say 12 years from now, 16 years from now, whatever, that steps into that situation. Okay, massive tariffs on foreign, imports from US companies. Like, I don't know. There's ways to keep jobs here and I think that there's always been a time where everyone thinks that the new technology is going to take away jobs, and yet it's never happened. There's displacement, there's rough times in between, but like Teva said, there'll be new industries. Like we're literally just getting more bougie. There's people that are doing tree walks and hot yoga, and all this shit is not needed at all, but it's good because we're such a first class nation that we have people that take care of our nails. It's like the least needed thing.
You think dog groomers exist? Like,
Yeah, yeah. There's dog hotels, but that's what I mean. There's just gonna be so much more of that.
so my point is, Tanner, two things. Number one, I think it's cute that you think this shit's gonna happen in 12 years, because if they added 800,000 bots in the last few years, like you're looking at 5 years tops before that's a 50-50 split, if not more bots than people.
No, I
First.
believe that.
Second, like, I think it's a very defeatist way of approaching the problem to throw the book at these private companies to make them, or to force them to keep the old way of working, to hire humans. Like,
I agree, but
the market's going
it
to adapt.
happens. Look at the longshore fucking problem. It does happen. I don't agree
Sure.
with the longshore situation, but people will defend their jobs.
But it's inevitable, is what I'm trying to say. They'll defend it as much as they can, but it's inevitable.
Yeah, but it takes a long time for new ports that have the new way to then become the major. Like, I do agree that that will happen. There will be new ports that are not instituted or that are not governed by the whatever the name of that union is, that will come out just fully automated, and then those will become the main ports that see much more traffic. I do agree with you.
Next 10 years, or actually 10 years from now, do you think that there are as many human workers in the United States as there are AI agents and bots combined?
The robots and the bots win.
I
Yeah,
think so too.
I
Yeah.
think so too.
Because also though, because the numbers are going to be upscaled like crazy. Like
Oh, yeah.
just like they'll say they have a freaking million, but it'll be one model, a million different bots. Like, I don't know, the numbers will be heavily favored in the quote unquote bots. By the way, the 800,000 robots that are taking care of Amazon right now are not humanoid bots. They're Roombas that
Yeah.
go and they go under pallets and lift them up and bring them to another location. That was one thing that I think I disagree with Amit. Like, I don't actually think Amazon's going to get into humanoid robots. That is more costly and space consuming than just building a facility that just automates package.
I
Just
think they'll want some, but
I'm-
like not that'll be a minority in the workforce.
yeah, there'll be humanoid robots to go fix the Roombas.
Exactly. No, I
Yeah.
think that's exactly right. Even in the medical field before like all this AI stuff, which it's disrupting there, but like what they're able to do that's just now a commonplace everyday procedure that's no big deal is just like unheard of like 10, 20 years ago. It's amazing. That rate of progress is only accelerating, especially because of AI. So it's an amazing time to be alive.
All right, let's wrap.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for watching. Really do appreciate your time. If you want to give a follow to all these lovely gentlemen, and if you're from Tevis or Roy's channel, I mean, give me a follow, okay?
Yeah, I guess.
Thank you so much. Bye for now.